Nintendo has proved everybody wrong. And what do I mean by that? Well, first things first, the Switch 2 has sold 5 million units in the first 3 months, give or take. And a lot of that comes back to the reasoning that it was just in stock. We're not in a pandemic anymore. And it's not like, if you remember back to 2020, trying to find a PS5 or the new Xbox when that came out, like the Series X or whatever, whenever that came out, who cares? When those came out, those were so hard to find. But now, it's just a different time. It's a different era now. It is just way, way easier to find a Switch 2. And a lot of people were online scalping the system, and they bought hundreds of some of these systems, like hundreds of the Switch 2. And now it's kind of just backfired on them completely, because I can walk into my local Walmart and I just see a bunch of them, or I go to Best Buy and I see a bunch of them. I'm sure you go to Best Buy or Walmart and I'm sure you see them there too. They're all over the place now because they've figured out stock, and that's one of the big reasons that actual system is selling as well as it is, because the stock is there at launch and the hype was there too. It really was one of the most hyped consoles of all time. And the thing is too is, yes, it didn't really iterate that much because it really was just the Switch 1 with a little coat of paint. But like I was saying, it really does come back to that the stock was available, and I'm sure shareholders at Nintendo are absolutely loving it. Now, 5 million systems, and here in Canada, I'll tell you right now, it's $800 for the Switch 2 after taxes, roughly, depending on what province you're in, give or take. I know it is really expensive, and what's making it bad too is that the games are really expensive. And the reason that people are even buying these to begin with is because it's been grandfathered in. Look, your grandparents, or I guess now, your grandparents may honestly have played the first Mario, and they showed it to their children, and now you or your grandchildren or their grandchildren, it's been grandfathered in. And that's kind of the whole thing, is that Nintendo has nostalgia to play on. They know that you are going to buy their games, and they can charge whatever, and people will buy their games. I bought a Switch too. I'm not happy with the purchase, if I'm being honest, because, like I said, the games are really expensive. I did buy Bonanza and Mario Kart World, but I got Mario Kart World, it was in a bundle, and that bundle was for the console, so realistically, I did the math, I only actually paid $50 for the game, versus like $124 after tax, which is crazy. First of all, it's $124 after tax. That's crazy. For Donkey Kong Bonanza, I paid $112 for that game, because that's after taxes here in Canada, and that's also crazy. But I know in the US it's $69.99, $70, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong again. I don't live there, so I'm just trying to get the prices right. For every single dollar that we have, it's $1.40 for every US dollar. So you have $70. That's so much money. $112 is what I paid, but I had a gift card. So I've been saying in my previous videos that I never really buy full price games anymore, and that is true for the most part, except for Bonanza. It really has been like 5 years since I've bought a full price game, and yeah, I think I'm going to keep that trend going. I really do want to buy Metroid Prime 4, but I'm willing to wait if I can find it secondhand, because that's what I've been doing. Like, I do buy Nintendo games, but a lot of the times I buy them secondhand physically, like later on. Like, I'm willing to wait. So Metroid Prime 4, I'll wait for that. And yeah, that's just where I'm at with that. And like I said before, I am not defending Nintendo in the slightest. There are so many things I can criticize them for, and I've criticized them for many things before in the past. Even if you go look at my past videos, I have criticized Nintendo for a lot of different things. There's been lawsuits, and one of the things I haven't actually criticized them for, at least on camera, but one of the things that bothers me a lot, first of all, it's the pricing, but also is them taking down like the mods, like game mods. So I love modding my games and adding like optimizers, and I love adding just expansions. Like there's one for Mario Sunshine that I've been wanting to play. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I know it looks really freaking cool. It adds like 240 shines, but there's so many cool things. Like there's Link's Awakening DX like HD that somebody did. I'm pretty sure they struck that down. There's just a lot of things that Nintendo does that I do not like. I still buy their consoles, and I do love the games, but it just sucks to see the direction it's going. I do remember buying my Switch back in 2017, the original one, and it felt so different. I remember thinking how different it was from the Wii U, because I got my Wii. So here, I'll tell you what. So I'm 22 years old. So I was like 12 years old when the Wii U came out, and I wanted it so bad for Christmas. I remember that Christmas so bad. It had New Super Mario Bros. U, and it was honestly, I watched so many YouTube videos as a kid on that game, like on like all the trailers, like before it came out and even after. But it was one of the first games that I really just sat down and I was like, oh, I am so excited for this. And I know people really hated on it, but it was one of my favorite games for a long time. My favorite games are like Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube and Animal Crossing New Leaf. I had to say Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Actually, I think Tears of the Kingdom is actually up there, but realistically, Mario U is somewhere in there, maybe. I don't know if it's in like the top 10, I don't know. But it's one of my favorites. I do love that game. It holds a special place, but I'm getting sidetracked here. The Wii U is so just different and has so much more character than what the Switch had. And I just remember thinking that right off the gate, but it felt so different back then too. A lot of people were saying different things. If you go back to different videos that people published back in the day, it was that the Switch was just so much more different and polished and so much more flat and whatever. But I think the Switch 2 is playing it really safe. And I've heard that before. I'm not the first person to say that. I'm not the first person to say that. That is for sure. The Switch 2 has really been playing it safe. That's a whole thing too, is that the new CEOs that have come in are just, they see that the console has done well. They want to replicate that success. And sadly, yes, it is replicating. And I don't hate Nintendo, but I definitely dislike the things they've been doing, and I don't really side with them. And I would really like to see them add character back in or have a reason to. I want them to have a reason to care, because right now I feel almost like they don't care, and that's kind of just what sucks about it, is that Nintendo has kind of lost touch with their fans. And for a long time they really had, they always were kind of out of touch, sort of, but there was a point where they were really in touch, and that was almost with Club Nintendo. If you guys remember Club Nintendo back in the day, you could just open up a game and it would have a code, and you can go on the website and you eventually accumulate enough points, you can redeem an item and ship to your house. Now they have the more botched version, which is the Club Nintendo, or not Club Nintendo, what is it now? It's My Nintendo, which is crappy as all hell, if I'm being honest. I'm not a big fan of that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that compared to Club Nintendo, but they really did lose touch with their fans, sadly, in the process. But to say Nintendo is successful is, in the financial space, yes, they are absolutely successful. They have more money than what they know what to do with. They have so much more money than what they could ever spend. They have so much cash reserves. Now they're starting a movie studio. They're doing their whole thing. There's like Nintendo Movies or whatever their whole studio is. They're branching off. They're going all in these directions, which I think is smart. And I'm happy that they're doing that and the IP's expanding, but it just sucks to see that they've lost touch with the real fans and are just moving forward with the more corporate sort of, gray shadow. You're not really there anymore as much as they used to be, which sucks. But to say they're successful is true in the financial space, but when it comes to the fans, it's been massive outrage, and that just depends on how you look at it. Is Nintendo successful? Yes, they're successful. And did Nintendo prove you wrong? Yeah, they did, with sales. Of course they did, because that's what everyone looks at, is the sales. And I bought one, and I'm sure that if you are watching this, you're probably interested enough to buy a Switch, and if not, you probably already bought a Switch, and I don't know if you're happy. If you're happy with your Switch, tell me if you even bought one. I don't know. How many of you have a Switch? Just let me know down below, and tell me if you like it. But anyways, I just want to end it there. I was just getting out my thoughts. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will say this is my second time recording the video, because for some reason I was clicking, I don't know why, my camera just did not record it. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and why not subscribe? I'm a small channel, and I appreciate it a lot. It really does go a long way, and I also just hit 200 subscribers, so thank you so much to all of you who have subscribed and who have been watching my videos. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next one.